Tonight, a new wave of long-range strikes is pushing the Russia-Ukraine war deeper into Russia's rear, and the message behind it is blunt. The places Moscow once treated as untouchable are no longer off-limits. Overnight into December 17th, reports from multiple channels described explosions, fires, and air defense activity across several regions, with particular attention on Russia's energy network, oil refineries, depots, and fuel logistics that help keep the war machine moving. Ukrainian military messaging described the operation as part of a sustained deep strike campaign aimed at draining Russia's ability to fund and fuel frontline operations, while Russian officials emphasized interception claims and minimized the scale of damage, creating a familiar fog where competing narratives collide and independent verification remains difficult in real time. Still, the most visually compelling and strategically important claims centered on the Slavyansk-on-Kuban area in Krasnodar Krai, where local accounts circulating online described a lengthy attack window and repeated blasts, followed by a visible fire near an oil facility. Ukraine's side said its forces hit infrastructure linked to a major refinery, and that explosions and a blaze were recorded at the target area, while damage assessments were still underway. Russian statements, meanwhile, focused on air defenses and suggested that any local harm came from falling debris rather than direct impacts, a framing that often appears during deep rear incidents because it allows officials to project control even when images of flames and shockwaves spread rapidly through social media. Beyond Krasnodar, attention also turned to the Saratov region and the nearby city of Engels, an area repeatedly discussed in connection with fuel processing, and more controversially, the proximity of a strategic aviation base that has played a role in Russia's long-range strike capability. Residents reported multiple explosions across Saratov and Engels, but with no immediate, universally confirmed accounting of what was struck. Analysts watching these patterns note that even when a single target cannot be confirmed, the combined effect of repeated alarms, detonations, and emergency responses forces Russia to spend resources on air defense, dispersal, repairs, and heightened security, costs that accumulate with every new night of pressure. In the Rostov region, Ukraine's statements also pointed to an attack on an oil depot complex, alleging damage to storage infrastructure and at least one vessel at or near the site. Again, a claim that, if accurate, fits a broader strategy of disrupting fuel movement rather than chasing symbolic targets. And that strategy has a clear logic. Russia's budget resilience, military procurement, and recruitment incentives are deeply connected to energy revenue, while battlefield momentum depends on steady delivery of diesel, aviation fuel, and lubricants to units that operate across a vast front. Interrupt those flows, and you create friction everywhere. Fewer reliable supplies, longer routes, more bottlenecks, and greater vulnerability to follow-on attacks. This is why, throughout 2025, analysts have increasingly described Ukraine's long-range campaign as shifting from occasional headline strikes to something closer to sustained operational harassment, an effort not merely to hit something, but to keep critical facilities from stabilizing, forcing Russia to repair under threat, reassign air defense assets, and absorb the psychological impact on communities now hearing air raid sirens and anti-aircraft fire far from the front. Even when casualties are limited, the political and social effect can be significant. Videos shot by ordinary residents, flashes on the horizon, the rattle of interceptors, the boom of impacts turn distant war into local reality, undermining the sense that the conflict is contained and controllable. And that's where this story becomes bigger than one refinery or one depot, because the battle is not only for territory, it's for stamina, perception, and time. Ukraine wants Russians to feel uncertainty at home and to watch costly assets burn. Russia wants to show it can absorb strikes, protect key nodes, and keep the economy and logistics humming despite pressure. Each side, for its own reasons, has incentives to exaggerate success. Kyiv to demonstrate reach and justify continued support, Moscow to preserve confidence and deny vulnerability. But step back and the trend line is hard to ignore. The geography of the war is expanding in practice, if not by official declarations. And nights like this, multiple regions, multiple reported targets, and hours of sustained activity signal a conflict that is increasingly fought across networks: energy, transport, air defense, communications, and public morale. So, as we watch the aftermath develop, what was hit, what was damaged, what can be verified, and what comes next, one question matters more than any single claim. Can Russia protect the economic and logistical lifelines that help sustain its campaign? And can Ukraine maintain the tempo of deep strikes long enough to turn disruption into strategic constraint? Tonight's report suggests the contest is intensifying, and regardless of which side's account proves closer to the truth by daylight, the direction is unmistakable. Ukraine is pressing the war into Russia's depth with a focus on fuel and infrastructure, and Russia is being forced to defend not just the front lines, but the systems behind them. Because in this phase of the war, the blast you hear hundreds of miles from the battlefield is no longer an anomaly. It's part of the strategy.